graduate, firstly, they need to have a diploma, estate management and matriculation or high school certificate. But if not, they need to have the degree in estate management at any university that recognized by the board. And then they need to have the post-qualifying work experience, which is 2 years full-time work training under supervision or registered valuer. And they have a record of work in diary, which is 2 years, and able to register as a probationary real estate valuer. And then they need to take the TPC test of professional competence TPC that compromise the submission of work diary and logbook, submission of record of experience, submission of 2 practical tasks, and also need to undergo a professional interview. After they manage to go through all these requirements, they are approved by as a registered valuer by Bovia if pass all the requirements.
Okay, next I will present about the overseas graduate candidates. For being a registered valuer, they must fulfill all the requirements. For example, first, they must have a study background such as from higher school certificate, Sijil Tinggi Pelajaran Malaysia or Associated Examination Board. For principal of A-level, they must pass any 2 of the subjects such as mathematics, economics, physics, chemistry, biology, geography, history, accounting, English and Bahasa Malaysia. Second, if they are from overseas institute, that must provide related to real estate course that recognized by board. While for degree, they must include any course that recognized by Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. Okay, thirdly is post-qualifying working experience. First, 1 year full-time work training under supervision of registered valuer. Second, records of work in diary for 1 year, and also able to register as a probationary real estate valuer. Okay, for the requirement is TPC. There are several things that they need to submit, such as a work diary and logbook, records of experience, submission of 2 practical tasks, and also a professional interview. And last but not least, when they fulfill all the requirement, and they will approved by Bovia as the registered valuer.
My name is Nur Amal Shahda and I will present about working candidates. For those working candidates who are from STPM, they need to at least get a 2A levels or 3.A levels. Next, those who are work as a lecturer or recognized in local institute required to have minimum 3 years academic experience and minimum 1,600 hours practice on part-time basis in such of establishment and under supervision during 3-year period. Another choice is minimum 3 years academic experience and minimum 6 months continuous full-time employment at such establishment and under supervision.
Next, I will explain on how to become a registered valuer that must sit for the first, second and final examination. So the first procedure is must do a task which is TPC and have a work training. Those that graduate from the entry qualification, which are from academic qualification and professional qualification, can go to next step of become a registered valuer. Then they must register as a probationary valuer for 2 years supervised by supervisor. Next step, when complete the practical task, which is task 1 and task 2, then they may proceed with the interview regarding the property manager, valuer, estate agent and law. Lastly, got a certificate from the board that state as a registered valuer and continuous professional development.
Last but not least is the final direct examination, where according to the registered value surveyor Azizur Ramli, he has skipped the practical task because he has 10 years experience before becoming a registered valuer. Thus, the procedure for the direct final examination conducted by the surveyor itself is the first is he is a graduate in estate management degree. He has worked in the private and government sectors after graduation, and his career path in evaluation has spanned 10 years. Then it allows that him to take direct final examination or interview with the secretary and board officers. The interview includes 4 areas, namely valuer, estate agent, property manager, and also legal. The interview result received by the surveyor Azizur Ramli are within 1 day. With that, he has passed and received recognition from the board to practice as a registered valuer. The first format of TPC is professional experience, where the period of experience are divided into 3 types of candidate. Firstly is the for all the candidate that has fulfilled board requirement must working in valuation firm in or any established company by a board and being supervised by the registered valuer for minimum 2 continuous years. However, the period will be reduced to 1 year for the overseas graduate candidate that has obtained exemption degree and diploma, as well as have to do 2 years practical experience in overseas. For lecturer, had 2 choice, either had minimum 3 years academic experience and do 1,600 hours as a part-time basis, or had minimum 3 years academic experience and do minimum 6 months continuous full-time professional experience. However, the candidate must receive experience at least 3 from the 8 rules, which are valuation of landed property, rating or local taxation, property management, real estate agency, compulsory land acquisition and compensation, national resource taxation, property development, investment, and property consultancy and research. Candidate also can experience more than minimum listed that being considered by the board. So for the practical experience, candidate must apply writing to board for preliminary opinion on proposed employment. So the candidate must consult with the board on related matter area of experience, and also they can make appeal on unsatisfied requirement. The supervisor must be a registered valuer and be assigned to ensure the candidate receive appropriate training. If candidate change employment or supervisor change during the period of training, they must notify to the board immediately. So the example situation is Hanif are doing professional experience at JB Jurnia Bersekutu for 2 years in valuation of landed property, property management, and real estate agency. But unfortunately, after 6 months practical, Hanif's supervisor had changed, so he needs to notify the board via form TPC V2/98.
For the submission, work diary and logbook, for the first rule, it summarizes the activities on the logbook for each week, and that it is essential to switch employers for experience purpose and jot it down on their diary on the second rules. For the third rule, every end of the week must be signed by the supervisor and submit the diary and logbook for the final assessment 30 days after weeks 104, 6 months or 106 hours. In special cases, when the logbook is missing, they have to promptly notify the board as soon as possible. And for the last rule, they need to submit the diary and logbook for preliminary assessment not late than 30 days after week 52 or 26, 3 months or 800 hours, or the completion of week 52 or 26, 3 months or 3 hours depending on the situation. And then for the logbook, it is to assist every applicant professional experience based on the entries in the diaries. They allow the assessor to decide whether the experience is appropriately balanced or not. First, they analyze the diary sheet of 24 or 12 months or 1,000 hours or 6 months of approved professional experience need to be included, and then the diary sheet must be in the diary either at the end of each month or the end of 200 hours, then signed by the candidate and supervisor at the end of every 4 or 2 months, every 200 hours, or once a month. And then for the third rule, the time spent on each area experience on the analysis of diary sheet must be of the end of the 12 months or 6 months or 800 hours, or at the third month. The candidates and employees will be contacted for extra experience if needed. And lastly, the final assessment will be held within 12 months after the preliminary assessment has been completed.
As for the record of the experience, the candidate need to do a typewritten report to the board. Then the report must not less than the 500 words. The report must consist about the experience that candidate get during the period of professional experience. The report will be covering about the type of area experience that the candidate takes, such as property management, valuation, or real estate. Second is the geographical area that candidate takes to gain their experience. Third is the type of property where the candidates conduct a case, for example, in office building or about historical building and others. Next is the level of responsibility. For instance, the candidate need to calculate the market value of the property using valuation of method, or the candidate need to do a report. Lastly is the extra information that show that they have gained an experience. For example, they need to calculate the market value of golf field that different with other candidates. After that, the candidate need to have a signature from their supervisor to certify the report.
Next, I will present about practical tasks. First of all candidates are required to prepare and submit 2 practical tasks as set out in Appendix B. And the written submission should be more than 4,000 words. Second, it must extract from Act of Parliament, case law, and other sources. The report must fulfill all the requirements, such as it should have number paragraphs, sectional heading, and number pages, and so on. Thirdly, the board will retain the original copies of each report and will return it on request. Next, the candidates should take particular care in choosing a subject which will demonstrate their knowledge and experience. In addition, the candidates are required to sign a declaration, which is Appendix C, that the report are their own and have it certified by the supervisor. Candidates who are in doubt about the task may seek guidance from the board in person or by the submission. Last but not least, practical tasks will be assessed by a panel, while unsuccessful candidates required to resubmit the task.
Lastly, for the professional interview, it will be assessed 45 days after the report was submitted, and the interview will be held in 6 times a year, and a question that it is about the wide ranging, including the professional ethics, and lastly, the result will notify to the candidate 45 days after the interview.
As a conclusion, the purpose of TPC is to ensure the person who want to work is competent, qualified, and have a lot of spirit with professional and ethics.